Is it still worth it?
Spiky Bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. I'm Rob Bear from SpikyBits.com, and we have a bit of a blast of the past today. We're going to take a look back at a product we reviewed about a year ago, the Army Painter Wet Palette. And what was cool about it then that I think is still relevant now, well, one of the big things, it's the easiest pre-packaged solution to get you up and running with a wet palette with no additional labor, no additional anything. You literally open the box, you put the sponge in, you put the paper in, and well, you want to wet the sponge, but then you put the paper in and you're good to go. You don't have to cook any paper. You don't have to go out to you pick up any random supplies from the grocery store or anything like that, although they are very affordable. Everything's ready to go inside this package, and perhaps what's the best part about this product is they're still pretty readily available even in these challenging times at a game store, or Army Painter has their store on Amazon. Army Painter has their web store, and also probably any of the mail order services that you already deal with also probably stock this product as well. So it's kind of a win-win to help support any of those businesses that you value in these trying times, but also it's something that'll help you get your stuff painted up and running at home. So I don't want to drone on too much about this, but long story short, and you don't even have to watch any more of this video, is I'm still using it a year later. I use it quite frequently, and I think it is a good product. Yes, I know you can make your own for less. Got it. Don't need a million of those comments again. Got it. But I think all the other things I said is still very valid. And definitely worth your consideration as well. But let's jump into it. I forgot some of the properties to this. Like, I don't know if it's airtight. I don't know if it's watertight. Well, we'll find out here in a second, because I'm going to put it through its paces. And then I'm going to show you how I'm using it currently and how it may help you in your hobby endeavors as well. So here it is, the Army Painter Wet Palette that we first showed you about a year ago, give or take, depending on when this video drops, right? So this is the actual box it came in. I get the stuff a little bit early from Army Painter. It came a little beat up, but no worse from wear. And then inside it was like all bubble wrapped, and there was this package here that had an extra little hydro pad and some of the paper as well. Now, I've used it off and on pretty much, I would say, at least once a week for the past year or so, and I haven't really used a lot of the paper. Now, if you're using this a ton, you might have to buy one of the refills now, which are actually out, and I think they're $13 or so. And the wet palette itself, is about $30. We talked about that, give or take, depending on where you buy it from. Now, like I said in my last, when I first showed this to you guys, you can make something a lot cheaper if you want, and you can get the Masters wet palette too for like $12 or something off Amazon, right? But this is a solution. It's ready to go. You don't have to cook the paper. You don't have to do anything. You just open it up, you pour a little water in, you're good to go. The hydro pad actually is a little bit mold resistant too, according to Army Painter, but I don't really know. Now, I don't know if you can see, but there's some paint stains on here, and I'm sure if I really wanted to, I could get out some 409 and kind of, clean that off. But it's whatever. It builds a little character, right? For me, this is a total solution. And in these challenging times, this is something you can go down to your game store. And Army Painter's keeping everybody stocked, right? You can get this. You can get this. You can help support your gaming store. You can, help paint your stuff at home, because, everybody's still hobbying hard at home, getting our armies ready for hopefully when the scene opens back up, right? So for me, it's a win-win. It checks all the boxes. It does all the things. It supports local business. It supports a hobby business. It is what it is. If you want to make yours, out of custom built, I know last time when I talked about this, and I'm going off on a little tangent here, everybody was like, oh, it's stupid. You can make your own. Yeah, it's only $5 with the stuff. No, thank you. I'll buy my own. I'll make my own. Yeah, I get that. Make it. Like, it doesn't matter to us. I'm showing you this product that's here, that if it's not for you, it's not for you. Don't watch the video, I guess. But for the most part, I think people were pretty accepting of this. Now, I haven't used this for a couple of days now. I just kind of left it, and work came up and I had a bunch of stuff to do. So we're gonna actually see, and I'm gonna show you what this looks like. If you leave it a couple of days, and I actually forget whether it's waterproof or not. But another thing that you might want to remember is flip this up and then put this on this, so you don't put it on your surface, so that way you don't contaminate your paints and everything in here. And this way you keep the bottom protected, and that inside and that bottom is never touching anything else out there. All right, so this is looking pretty good. Doesn't look, it's still pretty moist in here. And what I did was, yeah, I mean, sometimes the paint gets through the paper and it stains the hydro pad. But again, you can buy new hydro pads. You can change hydro pads. This is actually still pretty moist for being like 3 days old. And I put a couple of copper pennies in here. And the reason I did that is, even though this is supposedly like mold resistant, I figured that if there was going to be mold in here, it would develop on the pennies, and it'd just be super easy to clean instead of being like all everywhere, because that's kind of how zinc anodes work on warships and stuff, or boats just in general. So that was kind of my tech right there. It might work for you, it might not. And I know there's different copper consistency for different years of pennies, but I was just like, whatever, I got some pennies, and it worked pretty well. And there's another one right here. And now I can't tell you how this smells because unfortunately I don't have any smell buds. But that being said, it looks pretty clean in there, right? Except for those pennies right there. And while this paint looks to still be workable, this stuff over here has dried out. And I don't know whether that's if, it had dried out when I was using it or not, but I can tell you that that was the last color that I used right there. So it makes sense that that's still pretty available on there. Now, I did want to check to see if this is watertight. So let's put a little bit more water in here. Now, if this ever dries out, just add a little bit more water, but not too much. You obviously don't want it to drip or anything. We're going to actually put too much water in here right now, just because I want to see. I know it's probably not airtight. They don't claim it's airtight anywhere, and I'm pretty sure this is not a good seal. But the key is that you don't want the water leaking if you... Oh, the water does leak. So it isn't watertight either. So make sure that you don't tip that up or tip that down. Keep it nice and even and nice and level, or else you might have a little bit of a mess on your hands there, unfortunately. Maybe it is airtight, I don't know, but either way, I mean, it stayed pretty moist. Every now and then I forget about it, and a week or two goes by maybe, and it's hard to say, but I do have to put a little bit more water into it, but it's never completely dried out. So I don't know. Either way, I think it's a great product. Now I'm going to load this up with a little bit of paint, and unfortunately I got some extra water in here, and I'm going to show you basically how I use it currently still. So I put a little bit of these paints in here, and what I like to do with this wet palette is sometimes combine the paints. And the reason I'm combining them is that I'm trying to match some of the paint that I have airbrushed on one of my Custodes vehicles. And this really comes in handy here, because with a little bit of overspray, you can't always mask everything off, and you can't always, unfortunately, mitigate all those things. You can see where I've gotten some red on this, and it's not exactly the color that I wanted, but what I'm going to do is get it rebased with the gold, and then come in with some of the darker umber here and just kind of airbrush it. And the cool thing about umber is it works great with reds and golds. But I don't know what color this is, and it looks like I went a little too light right there, so I'm just going to grab some of this copper and grab some of this, I don't know what this is, greedy gold right here, and I'm just going to kind of work it together till it kind of matches about the color that's right there. And it might be a little bit of umber in there, I'm not really sure, but I just want to get it close, because once I hit it with that burnt umber through the airbrush, it's going to completely change properties, and you're not going to see that the gold doesn't match or anything like that. But for you all that might be using this would be really great to kind of wet blend and do a couple of different things, a couple of different effects to get in there and kind of match some of the things that you might be doing. But that's pretty much it. And you can see right here where I got a little bit too crazy with the red as well. Kind of got a little onto here. Now this is a little bit brighter, so we'll kind of take some of this and we'll add in some of our
50/50 silver and bright gold. I think it's bright gold. Which one is this? Yeah, bright gold. And what we'll try to do is match that right there so it doesn't look like an eyesore. And that's too bright. So then we just come back and we just add a little bit more gold to our brush. And it looks like we nailed it right there. So we'll just clip that edge a little bit, and that's perfect. And then that way it doesn't kind of clash and look like there's a little, why is there a little bit of red on that gold? And I'll probably eventually come back and hit this edge with a hyper highlight. And don't forget about your finger eraser too. But for now, I just want it to kind of knock it back down and just kind of trim it up just to get it nice and tidy. And then I can do all sorts of cool things once I'm done with the airbrush, all the airbrush work. Because in order to do the umber, you have to go back and fix your overspray spots. And I find it's easier to spray red over top of gold. Sometimes you get a little bit on the gold, so it's no big deal to fix. Instead of gold, anytime you spray a metal, the chances are it will flake. Is really, really high, unfortunately, and I didn't want to get flake gold or metals onto the red because that doesn't look good. But you can get red onto gold and you can kind of fix it, and that's my thinking there. So this is really going to come in handy for me right now. Now, just to give you an idea, I know I said all that, and you're like, what the heck does any of that mean? This is what it's going to look like. So this is a finished tank right here, and you can see where I've come in with the umber, and the umber works really well on red, and it also works really good on this gold. And then I've come back and I've hit the edge with a little hyper highlight of gold too. So it's kind of like a transition color between the gold and the red as well. That's what it's going to look like. Eventually, we're going to get there because this is a very big flying model, and it's got a lot of detail on it. So we'll just keep doing this over the next couple days and kind of fixing spots as we need to. There's actually not a whole lot of spots. I'm probably done. But once we get our airbrush work done, this hopefully will still be usable, and I can come back and do some hyper highlighting on all the straight edges once we get our airbrush work done, and then go ahead and matte seal it, and then come back and start hitting it with some of that. So this is kind of where I'm at with this, and you know, I think, again, it's a great product. It might not be for everybody that can build their own, but for me, it's super easy, ready to go. And as long as I don't tip this, I probably won't spill it everywhere. So, yep, a year later, I am still using the Army Painter wet palette. I think it's a great product if you don't mind spending the money. I think mid-range, it's pretty accessible to a lot of folks out there because they are at the stores. Most game stores out there that are still open will have this. You can obviously pick it up on Amazon for less. I think the Army Painter has a store on Amazon themselves. And, well, I'm sure you can get it pretty much from any of the other mail order services out there that you might already order from. So just kind of keep this in mind. It is still something that I think is worth having. I'm still using it a year later. I don't really see myself stopping using it. I may not use it every time I go to paint, but it's definitely a time saver because it keeps those paints nice and moist and workable throughout the project. Or, you know, if I just come back an hour later or 2 hours later because things get crazy and you got to pick up some cat messes, well, then you can. So that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching our, hey, 1 year later, are we still using it? Review of the Army Painter wet palette. And of course, they have the separate hydro sheets that you can pick up as well. This might be something that, you know, I'm a series I might be doing here in the future. So if you saw us using a product in the past and are curious if we are still using it, or hey, you know, drop a comment. Hey, are you still using this? What do you still think of this product? You know, because we've done a lot of these videos over the past 10 years or so, and I'd love to go back and visit them for anything we're still using, or maybe something we're not and why we're not using it. So maybe that'll be a good one too. So that's it for this one. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you can be the very first to like and comment on all our videos.